Hey guys, Gardner Hamilton here from blackandwhitestreet.com. Today I'm going to do not a short review but an intensive review regarding the Sony A7Rii. Received this from Sony a while back. Been testing it, street photography, personal family style photography, and also event photography, weddings. So I've got quite a bit of information to share with you today, guys. I'm also going to be running through the lenses they sent with it, which was they sent the 24-70 Zeiss, they sent the 55 Zeiss, they also sent the 28mm, which is the Sony lens, and the 0.75 wide angle converter. They call it the ultra wide converter, which gives you a 21mm equivalent on the 28mm lens, and it maintains the f2 aperture. So let's get into it. Sony A7Rii. Pretty much everyone knows about the AR7. To me personally, I'm kind of new to Sony. I haven't dabbled much in Sony's equipment as a professional photographer, to be honest. So this is kind of new to me, which I like the fact that it's new to me and I don't have any prejudgments on the equipment. I've been a digital SLR user for a long time, and I also use digital rangefinders. So interesting piece of equipment this. First of all, kicking off with the build quality. The build quality is good. It's solid, it's not light, but a lot lighter than a digital SLR, that's for sure. But it's very solid, and it comes with this great grip design. The design is pretty simplistic. They haven't went crazy trying to make it look futuristic or make it look like something that's not a camera. They're not went crazy trying to make it look like a Leica, like a lot of companies are. They've made it a functional camera. It's a squarish body, it has a good deep grip here, so someone who's using it professionally with a larger lens on it, you can support it with one hand quite easily. So as far as the grip shape goes at the back here also, there's a little thumb lip, which is great, and they've tucked the record button well out the way, so it's not going to get accidentally hit by a photographer. I'm not a videographer, I don't do video, although the video output from this camera is exceptional. So the layout is pretty simplistic. There's not a lot of buttons on it. It's very similar to the predecessor, I believe, which I never even got to touch. It has the main controls that you need access to. What it doesn't have on the lenses, obviously, you don't have your aperture control. These sort of things are done through internal digitally. All the aperture control for the lenses is done by programming whatever dial you choose to use for ISO and for aperture. But it does have the main dial here for selecting. This is where you do your selecting for, obviously, for your mode that you wish to shoot in. And it has pre-programmable buttons, 4 of them, which are excellent, super functional. And the layout of these buttons is in great positioning. You can program these to do your ISO or change your black and white colour, change dynamic range, these sort of things. So the layout and the build quality is very easy to use. Something I've noticed as a pro shooter, when you put a tripod shoe on the bottom of this camera, it does not affect the articulation of the screen. So the screen can still exit no problem with a hot shoe on the bottom of it there to connect to a tripod. Some of these cameras, like the Fuji for example, the X-T1, when you put a plate on the bottom, even some of the lower end Canon DSLRs, when you put a shoe on the bottom, some of them can affect the articulation or the initial removal of the screen on the back. So this doesn't happen with the Sony. Also, the plate is well positioned because it's away from the battery door, so you don't need to take the plate off to access the battery, or you don't need to take the plate off to access the SD card slot. So that's good job Sony, well done. The actual movement of the buttons is very solid, very positive, very similar to my Leica, and really in reality the exposure control, very positive. That would not move by accident on me. The main dial you have to pinch the lock button in the center to get it to move, so that's super secure. The other buttons are recessed deep enough that you can find them easily and enough that you're not going to accidentally hit them. So for that is good. The articulation of the screen is very positive when you pull it out. It doesn't go to the side, it only rotates vertically. but the articulation is good, it's solid. There's been some reports of overheating with this camera in video modes that I've read about, certainly doing photography. I've been shooting with it in South America and there's been no heating issues, hot days here, but there's been no overheating issues whatsoever. Okay, so getting down to it, it feels very tight. It's a weather sealed body and you can tell it's very well made, very compounded, very good, solid. The door for the SD card is nice, solid, it's tucked away, you're not going to accidentally flip it open. Just a little click and it pops up itself. You don't need to lift it, it's spring loaded, which is great. Batteries, these batteries I find nice and small, which is great because you have to carry a few. The life of the batteries, in black and white shooting I'm getting around 570 images per battery. Colour I'm getting about 450. The colour's obviously sucking a little more power from the sensor. So the only issue I have with the batteries, other than the fact I feel they're a little underpowered, these are 1020 milliamp hours. So for a full frame camera using a backlit sensor with 43 megapixels, I would like to have seen these nearer 1800, maybe even 2000 to make the usability a little easier on it. The only thing really that bothers me a little bit with the batteries, that I've made the mistake a few times, is when you put the battery in, the battery is symmetrical on this axis. So you can put it in correctly, well that's actually the wrong way, there you go. You can put the battery in correctly and it locks. So it'll click into place when you put it in the right way. But when you don't put it in the right way, it doesn't lock, it just rejects it. Which is good, then you know your battery's in the wrong way. But it kind of wastes time. If I'm doing a quick battery change at an event, I want the battery not to permit me to enter it, and then I know I'm making the mistake and I'll put it in correctly, not put it in and have to take it out again and change it. But that's a nuance, it's a little thing. It's just probably because I'm accustomed to that, shooting with Canons and other styles of cameras. So that's just a little thing, it's not a game changer, it's not a major thing. One other little nuance that kind of got me was the body cap only fits on one way. Like some of the other companies, the body cap, it goes on and makes a 1/3 turn or makes a half turn to install the body cap. This body cap will only go on like a lens in alignment with the white dot and lock. So that's a little bit of a pain when I'm maybe putting the body to the side, not using it, and I have to take a lens off, or I want to cap the body while I'm working. I have to make sure I get it aligned properly. It's just a little thing I have to do that I could be doing without. Other than that, no problems. It's very easy to use. The center eye finder is similar to a DSLR, doesn't bother me. I like viewfinder to the side often, but centerpiece very good. So getting down to it, image quality depends greatly on the lens obviously, but basically the image quality is good. The 43 megapixels is pretty outstanding, to be honest. It gives huge cropping facility, based it's a full frame sensor obviously. It has great facility for cropping, so as an event photographer, if I need to crop a photograph out of the corner of a photograph for some reason, it can be done. Not something I would do regularly, but I now have the facility to do it, and that opens doors. So, what are my main likes about this camera? The size, the weight. As a pro event photographer, the size and the weight are hugely beneficial. The fact that that now comes with amazing image quality, high resolution that can be cropped down, is really a game changer for me, a game changer. A game changer to the degree that I'll probably now be shifting out of DSLR and going full time on mirrorless systems. Sony being a major contender to that market for me. So, the menu system. Into the menu system, it's pretty simplistic. It's not as complex a memory system as I've experienced in other cameras, that's for sure. It's progressive, you just scroll through continuously, and really and truly, the fact that you can pre-program 4 buttons to facilitate the most common features that you want to use in the camera eliminates the need to be rolling through the menu frequently. So once you've got it set up to the way you want it and you get your 4 buttons programmed, I very rarely go into the menu. I go into the menu to format a card, an SD card, and really that's about it. I don't jump in and out the menu much. with the buttons. The 4-button program is very good, works out great. So back to image quality. Black and white images, amazing. I actually prefer the black and white images out of this than out of the digital Leica bodies that I have, believe it or not. I don't know, the shade density I feel it's very pure, it's very clean. The shade density in black and white is awesome. The rendering of the tonal range in black and white is also very good, and that's the basic black and white. I only +1 the contrast on it, and that's it. I like a more contrasted image, and I love the image on it, beautiful. The colour, I find it's Sony colour, which is Sony have their own way of rendering colour, different to Canon. Obviously they have their own way of rendering colour on the sensor, and so does Nikon, etc. The Sony colour I find is very vibrant. Sometimes it can be a little unnatural. I don't know if that's because there's just too much information coming into the sensor. It can be a little unnatural when there's large volumes of the same colour in the frame. If you have a frame that has a lot of green in it, it can tint the sky, or it can tint the whites a little bit, I find. Nothing to do with white balance, this is in natural lighting, natural daylight, sunlight. So sometimes I feel it biases the colour a little bit. But it's nothing that can be rectified, and it's rare really that it happens. It's rare you have a saturated frame of one colour. It's generally a little more mixed up with other range of colours in it. But it's rare that that happens. So, with respect to the camera itself as a wedding photography tool, the speed of the focus is not as fast as the Canon 5D Mark III, for example, or the 1DC that I use. It's not as fast as that, but it's fast enough. I don't generally need rocket fast, hypersensitive focusing, especially for manual focusing. It doesn't matter, but for the autofocus, when I do use it, I find it's fast enough. It doesn't fail me. The Canon fails me sometimes as well, and it's got really fast autofocus, but often it can fail me. The events I've used this at so far were not high-speed events. I'm not using it for sport, I'm using it for a bride, so she's not galloping down the aisle of the church, she's walking. People dancing at a party, whatever. Yep, the autofocus does it for me. It catches it. There's 299 phase detection points, and that's more than enough. I use it very simply. I'm a simple guy. I use center spot focusing, and I recompose to suit myself. I don't let the camera select where the focus is going to be. I choose that, and I spot focus, recompose, and finish the take. Perfect. Works great. The viewfinder, awesome. Well illuminated viewfinder. Works brilliant at night. If I'm working in low light scenarios, the viewfinder really helps me find content that I maybe wouldn't see so easily looking with my own eye. So that's great, that helps me a lot working in low light. The ISO, I'd say on this, from what I've researched, it's not as good as the Sony A7S ISO, which I have had a little experience. I've shot a few frames on it. A friend of mine, Mark Rosales in Los Angeles, has that camera, and he let me use it a couple of times, and the ISO in that I'd say is definitely more powerful than this. But this is definitely up there with the Canon 5D Mark III. I ran this at 6400 and I ran the Canon at 6400, and there's a million examples of this online. I don't need to bore you with all these sample images. I'm giving you more my experience and my opinion on what I've seen from the camera. So the 6400 for me is as good as the 5D Mark III, and once it's processed it's actually a little better. Once I do some noise reduction on it, I feel it's better. It's a tighter image, and the colour reproduction at higher ISO is better than the Canon also. The white balance is more accurate at high ISO. When you start to push it up, I shot a couple of frames at 52,000 in the street, and okay, they were a little creamy obviously. There's not any cameras shooting at 52,000 that doesn't have a creamy image. To be honest, as an online image, I would share it and use it. It's obviously a high ISO image, and photographers will take it as what it is. It's not a printable image up to 2 meters because it's a full frame sensor. You're not going to get a printable image up to 2 meters at that sort of ISO. But as for a digital image online on a screen, it's usable. 25,000 was actually very acceptable. 12,000 to me online on an online image was no problem at all. And there below, perfectly usable. I would be happy to provide that to clients. They would accept that as a naturally lit image. What else? That's about it. It accepts a whole range of SD cards, all the high speed and variables on SD cards just now. It's compatible up to 128 gigabytes. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the body, guys. As a wedding photographer, I would give it a 9 out of 10. When I did the review on the 5D Mark III, I think I gave it an 8.2 out of 10. So this is obviously more advanced because it's newer, and it presents some more, it's Wi-Fi, which obviously the 5D doesn't have. The Wi-Fi is pretty good. It comes with a phone app that you can program into it also, connected to your smartphone, so you can start dumping images quickly. Yeah, that's about it, guys. Keep it short and sweet. What else do we have here? Yeah, we've got our regular HDMI connectors, 2 different sizes of HDMI connectors, and on the side, Sony, who are obviously ahead of some of the other guys when it comes to producing a camera with this sort of video capability, they've been smart enough to put a headphone and a microphone jack external on it, which is a must for people doing video. As I say, I don't review video because I'm not a videographer, but the video in this is amazing. I did just do a short video at 4K and it's amazing. All in all, it's a great package. Obviously it's priced at the professional market. It's priced just now in B&H Photography in New York at $3,198 plus tax, plus 9% tax I believe. So it's definitely geared at the professional price range. Is it geared at professional photographers? I would say yes, it is. I think the issue is professional photographers have a hard time accepting this as a pro camera more than the camera lacks ability to accept a professional photographer. This for me works as a professional instrument without a problem until now. I haven't used it with flash as of yet. I've used it only with available lighting. That'll be my next adventure, is to use it with flash. Sony did not provide me with a flash, so I used it as they provided it and give the report accordingly. Over and above that, guys, yeah, as I say, it's a very good camera. As a street photographer, I would say it's probably too much of a camera. It's excessive to use as a street photography camera. It's nice having the full frame, obviously. It's nice having some low light capability there. Nice having the big wide viewfinder and the programmable buttons to make quick changes for changes of light in the street. But do I need 43 megapixels as a street photographer? No. If I afford to buy the camera, then yes, it's a luxury. It's not a necessity. Sony have definitely hit the nail on the head. I think any next version, any following versions of this camera that they make, it would be nice to maybe see a little more options on the transition between using the digital screen or the digital viewfinder. I know with Fuji they have 4 options on how you want to work the sensor to view images and view the viewfinder. With the Sony, only has a couple. You have to switch it to the viewfinder and the sensor, but you also have to manually switch the back screen off. And when you switch the back screen off, it doesn't go off completely. It still maintains a power to the back screen, which for me, it's not a big issue. It doesn't make any change really to using the camera. The only concern I would have is that it eats some battery power. And with it being such a small battery power, that's a concern for me, as I need to carry more equipment. The batteries are small again. The only complaints I have, the negatives I've made with this camera, guys, are just nuances. There's nothing major that would annoy me in using this camera or stop me from wanting to pick it up and put it in as my primary camera in my bag when I'm shooting professionally. So that's my first quick review of the A7R II, guys. It definitely is a beautiful device. It's very well constructed, and I have a lot of confidence to use it. Some cameras I'm not so confident to use, but this one, yeah, it inspires confidence. It's not difficult, it's not complicated, and it produces great shots. So that's it for the A7R II, guys. Next video is coming up is going to be covering the 3 lenses and the lens adapter that they sent me. So stick around, watch the next video. Take care, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll be talking to you again soon. Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my Sony review. I'd like to cover with you now the 28mm. Sony kindly sent me through the 28mm FE. It's an f2 lens. Let me just put these guys off to the side here. So I've been using this lens. This is my first interaction with Sony as a company, both camera wise and lenses. So they sent me through 3 lenses and an adapter. They sent me the 24-70 Zeiss and the 55mm Zeiss, and they also sent me this 28mm. Now this is not the Zeiss component, this is the Sony lens. What I've noticed with this lens is there is definitely a difference between the Sony lens and the Zeiss branded product. The first thing that struck me after I took the little pinch 49mm lens cap off was the construction of the lens hood. While it's not badly constructed, it feels like a Canon lens hood, it feels like a Nikon lens hood, but it definitely does not feel like the Zeiss lens hood. The lens on the Zeiss lenses, the hood on the Zeiss lenses is considerably of better fabrication. But certainly this is functional. It does its job. It doesn't have to be a spectacular piece of equipment to do its job. It's a lens hood no more. So it does a job. It's functional. It clips on easily. You line up the dot and it snaps on like any other lens hood would. So back to the lens. I've been using this lens on a Sony A7rii Mark II, which is the only Sony camera I have access to. So I'm going to throw it on. It just goes on like any other lens. Line up the white dots, and on she goes. So this is how it looks on the body, guys. This is it with the lens hood and without the lens hood. As I say, it accepts a 49mm filter, this lens. It's 28mm when we're using it on this full frame body. Okay, so what's my initial feel with this lens? Yeah, the construction feels pretty good. It's pretty solid. The focus ring on it is, it's nice, but it feels as if it's missing something. It feels like it's under constructed a little bit. Yeah. Not that it affects the functionality. The focus ring functions beautifully. I've been using it mainly on manual focus. Functions beautifully. Used it also in autofocus. Super fast, the autofocus, very fast. But I just find the ring kind of, I don't know, it's a nuance, nothing more. The image quality is good. It's good. This lens is priced at $449 US in the United States in B&H photography. That's plus 9% tax, so you're looking at like $500. So it's a $500 lens. It's not a top of the range lens. It's not branded as a Zeiss lens. While Sony still have very good lenses. This lens is made in Thailand, and I think maybe that's the difference. I'm pretty sure these guys are not made in Thailand. I can't actually see where they are made, but with them being badged as Zeiss, they're more than likely made in Germany or maybe Russia. So I think really that's the main difference in the construction side of it. With regards to the glass itself, it produces nice images. I prefer it in black and white than colour. I feel the black and white it produces is better. Shooting it wide open, it's an f2. Shooting it wide open, it gets soft in the edges. There's no doubt about it. It gets soft. Even for a 28mm, it gets soft in the edges. Once you start getting it up around 5, 6, pushing it up to 8 and then into 11, f11, it's nice, it's sharp, it's clear, it's consistent. You pretty much get a positive result with it. It doesn't dance around much on you. You know what you're going to get when you shoot with this lens. That's one thing about it. It's a consistent shoot. Whether it's a lens for professional use as a wedding photographer, I don't know. I'd maybe go for like a 28mm Voigtlander manual focus lens maybe before I would go for this. To use as a manual focus lens. To use an autofocus lens, I'd maybe look at an alternative. I don't feel it really benefits having the quality, having it attached to this body, the A7R II by Sony. I feel putting this lens on it is kind of like putting diesel in a Ferrari. But It's not like the worst lens I've ever used. It's not the best 28mm I've ever used. Certainly for street photography and personal photography, it's perfect. For wedding photography, a little less. So, moving on, what did they give me to add on to this lens? They gave me a 0.75 adapter, which by removing the lens hood, this little guy here, this has a little trigger button on it here that you release to allow it to install, and you just need to line it up and it clicks into place. It has its own lens cap and it has a built-in lens hood. So this is what you end up with. This is a 21mm equivalent on this full frame. It has a pretty wide element on the end there with a curvature, no filter, no possibility to add a filter on this. It has it comes with a fixed lens hood on it. There's a little bit of play on it when it's installed, but it doesn't affect anything. So this then switches us to, well, incidentally, this is also made in Thailand. So these two products are very comparable in that aspect. This product switches it to a 21mm and maintains the f2 aperture should you require it. This I find it's good. I mean, this again is a budget price product. It's $159, $160 US dollars plus tax. So the combination of these two is running in at like $600 to give you a 28 and a 21mm lens. So for that price, you're not really paying a lot of money in today's current market for this type of adaptability to give you 28 and 21mm. So for that, it's very user friendly. It's very easy to use. You pop this on the end. It's very small to carry as well. It's not like carrying a secondary full-size lens. It's half the size of a lens. So the usability of it's pretty good actually for playing around, family photography, taking personal shots, maybe even some amateur architectural photography, landscape stuff. Pretty good. When you put the 21 on, it does fisheye. It does have some curvature on the end of the image, but it's touching on fisheye focal range there. You're going down pretty low in the focal range. The focal length, sorry. So for the price range, for what you're getting, yeah, there's good quality for the price, there's no doubt about it. Obviously when I've been playing with these Zeiss lenses, it's hard to step down and play with this sort of quality. It's a considerable step down. But really and truly, does it produce? Yeah, it produces. For what it is, it produces. It's a more budget type user lens, more geared at maybe the hobbyist than the professional, this piece of equipment. But it's good fun. I've had some good fun with it, shooting close-ups, family shots, and some landscape stuff that I wouldn't normally shoot. This kind of made me want to play with that. Architectural type photography, or even some street photography. Some guys now are shooting really wide. 21 is a bit too much, I think, in my opinion, for shooting street photography. You lose the subject. But shooting the 28 street photography, yeah, and it's a less expensive lens, so you're not going to get so worried if somebody has a go at you for taking their photograph. You know, you're not losing a $1,000 lens or a $2,000 lens if someone has a go at you. I think more the fact that it's a 28mm fixed lens helps it quality wise. The image quality, as I say, is very acceptable. Only f2 it's a little soft on the edges, and f4 and below it's a little soft on the edges. Other than that, guys, it's a good lens. It's for what you pay for it, for the $450 that you would pay for this lens. Yeah, it's a good lens to have in your kit. To use it as a professional wedding photographer, as I say, I'd probably look for something with a little more, something that feels a little more durable. As a hobbyist or a non-professional photographer, I would have no hesitation in buying this lens and be perfectly happy with its results. So that's the 28 FE f2 by Sony and the 0.75 adapter for the 28mm FE lens. Both of these products, guys, I would rate the lens itself out of 10. I would give it a 7.5 based on what it is, judging it for what it is. This product here, I don't really give it a rating because it is what it is. The image quality, it doesn't really decline the image quality when you put it on the lens, but you do have to be prepared that it is going to give you curvation on the side of the frame. It's going to start making your horizontals curve. it's 21mm on a wide angle. It's only to be expected. All in all, yeah, a pretty good combination, those two for your bag. I'd recommend them. Thanks very much guys, and I'll talk to you soon in the next review. Hey guys, welcome back to the third part of the Sony equipment review. I've been reviewing the Sony A7 II and also the range of lenses that they sent me through, which was the 28mm, the 21mm converter, the 55mm and the 24 to 70mm. So right now I'm going to cover with you the Sony 55mm f1.8, and this is the Zeiss branded lens. This one has the Zeiss tag on it, and it's actually it's a Zeiss sonar lens. It tells you on the inside here, Zeiss sonar lens. So this is a 49mm filter size lens. Beautiful build quality, typical of Zeiss. I am a Zeiss fanboy. I've been using Zeiss manual focus lenses for a long time on rangefinders, and for many years I've been a Zeiss fan, and they never really let me down. This is a beautiful lens. It's beautifully manufactured, it's nicely balanced, nicely weighted, and even the quality of the lens hood it's actually spectacular. I've never felt lens hoods built to such a quality as this. Now these are a plastic material, but they're exceptionally well made. It's very solid, very rigid, and to install it, super positive. You can hear it. It clicks like a handgun when you put the thing on. It's really nice. The mobility on the focus ring is beautiful, just typical Zeiss. It's just like perfection, the right amount of resistance to not annoy you. It's not too slack that it feels as if it's running away out your fingers. Typical Zeiss, it's spot on, very impressed. This is a 55mm f1.8. So I've been using this, as I said, on the Sony A7R II, which is a full frame 40 plus megapixel camera. So what do you get with this lens? This is a T-coated lens. So those of you who are familiar with Zeiss know that they have several different types of coatings. The T coating is their top lens, and this camera it also has the T star on it here as well, the Sony. So the compatibility with this and Sony equipment is obviously very good. This lens has a minimum half meter focal distance on it, which is not super close, but for me a 55mm is close enough. I don't need any closer than that. This lens I'm using for three main purposes, to be honest. Of the lenses they sent me, it's my favourite. It's a little over my favourite focal length. I like to shoot 40mm, that's my favourite. 50 I can shoot confidently and comfortably. This is 55, it's a little tighter, but not much, and on a full frame, it's no big deal. What I love shooting with this is, for framing street photographs, doing street photography. It's working in that realm for the tight framing, working at the distance that I'm comfortable to work at without having to get too close. Like using a 28mm is very close, and you have to get very close to your subject in the street. This for street photography, it's another realm in street photography, shooting in 50mm in reality, but this is beautiful for doing it. Beautiful. The rendering, the bokeh in the lens is all beautiful when you start using it in event photography for weddings. It works out well for portraiture. It's a smaller millimeter portraiture lens, but beautiful. The clarity in the image is amazing. The colour is just outstanding. Shooting black and white on it is so beautiful, so beautiful. I'm in love with this lens. And it's rarely I fall in love with a lens, but this one I've definitely fallen in love with. Very different construction feel to this to the lenses made in Thailand by Sony. This is the Zeiss. When you put it on the camera, I'll let these guys see it on the body. Just very simply installs like any other lens would. Line her up and pop her on. Bam. So there's the lens without the hood, 55mm. If you compare it to this is the 28mm by Sony very little difference in size. And bear in mind that with these lenses, the image stabilization is done by the body. So it helps you keep the lens size down a little bit. All the image stabilization, the 5-axis image stabilization is done inside the body, so the lens is not doing any of that work, which helps to keep the lens more compact. What I love about this lens is it's so clean. While I miss having a depth of field gauge and these traditional things on a lot of these new lenses, and I'm coming to terms with that as I progress through the products, what I do love about this lens is it's just so clean. The look of it, there's no distraction on it, there's nothing shouting out at you, it's just there to do its job, and it does so very well. With the lens hood on, it makes it a considerable element in the front of the camera. Obviously, you know, you're looking at about 12-13 centimeters there of projection in front of the camera. But that said, to me, it's not really that important. I'm not like trying to sneak photographs off of people. I'm just out taking photographs in the street, or I'm working at weddings and events, and I'm a photographer, I'm doing my job. So I'm not trying to sneak around with little tiny pancake lenses and stuff. For the image quality that this produces, to be honest, if it was twice the size, I would still use it. I wouldn't care if people are spotting me or not. The lens does its job and does so beautifully. Especially, it'd be nice to use it with an adapter on another camera also to see what it produces, but on the A7rii Sony, it produces outstanding images, especially with 1.8, nice, 2f2, nice portrait work. When you knock it up to like f8, f11, it's continuously sharp through the frame, beautifully rendered images out of this lens. Typical Zeiss glass in reality. So yeah, so that's the Sony FE 55mm f1.8, beautifully constructed, beautiful results, guys. Very impressed with this lens. This lens retails in the United States in B&H in New York. It retails at $899 US plus tax, which takes you to the $1,000 line. Okay, it's not the cheapest lens on the market, $1,000 for a 55mm f1.8. There's f1.2s out there around the same sort of price, a little bit more expensive. Having the Canon 50mm f1.2 and having this, I would gladly throw the Canon 50mm 1.2 in the ocean and use this every day of the week. To me, it is my favourite lens that I've used on this body, and it's definitely in my top 10 favourite lenses that I've ever used as a professional photographer. So, Zeiss 55mm f1.8, highly recommended. Quality of the lens and quality of the images, spectacular. Yeah, so thanks again guys for watching, and stay tuned for the next video on the 24-70 Zeiss for Sony. Hey guys, welcome back to my video review. This is Gardner Hamilton doing the Sony product review for blackandwhitestreet.com. So this video is the final video of the set, and this one's going to be on the Zeiss lens for Sony, which is the 24-70 f4. This, obviously being a Zeiss lens, again is an exceptional piece of equipment. The quality of the build, from the rigidity of the lens hood down to the actual lens itself, the zoom ring and the focus ring is just exceptional, beautiful. This is a Vario Tessar series lens. I don't know if you're familiar with the Zeiss range or not. The Vario Tessar and the 55mm lens that I reviewed in the other one here, the Sonar lens, are both very high quality glass. So getting down to it, I've been using this lens on the Sony A7Rii II. Spectacular results, beautiful results. I'm not a big fan of mid-range zoom lenses or wide to mid zooms. I use them because I have to professionally. Personally, I don't use them. for my own personal photography, be it family or compiling portrait or constructing some portfolio work. For me personally, I don't use any telephoto, I use only prime lenses. So using a 24-70 for me felt like a work environment. I use them when I'm shooting events. So I use this as an event lens to replace using my 24-70 f2.8 Mark II on my Canon. So this travelled with me to a couple of events, and I was really interested to see how it resulted as an f4, based on the fact I usually use an f2.8 when I'm shooting these events. A lot of them are low lighting. So using it on the A7R2, let me pop this lens on here, guys, so that you can see how it looks on the actual body. Just seat it on there, and there she is there. So bear in mind it's 24-70, it does extend when you zoom it, that's 70mm, and that's 24. It's got a bit of a, it kind of adds like maybe, it's putting like 40% more length onto the lens when you zoom it. Shooting this lens at f4, I really didn't have any problems in low light. Using it with the A7R2, obviously I have a good low light capability. The camera has a backlit sensor and runs on very good ISO. Low light, the ISO works very well. Not hugely different to the 5D Mark III, but different, an improvement for sure. So I felt a little nervous shooting f4 in case I hit some low light capacity. I wasn't shooting with flash. I was a little nervous shooting f4 in case I ran out of light. But it didn't happen. I was shooting in some pretty dark environments, at parties, just with strobe lighting and some ambient lighting, and I didn't encounter any problems. It managed to catch every time. It was focusing, it was running well with the high ISO. The rendering from this lens is very consistent to Zeiss. It's beautiful, it's clean all the way through. There's no vignetting, there's no soft edges on it. It's a very, very nice piece of equipment. Obviously it's $1,100 to buy the lens plus tax, which takes you to like $1,250. But Zeiss lenses are not in the market to make cheap lenses. Zeiss are in the market to make high quality glass, and this is certainly an example of that. The minimal focus on this lens is 0.4 of a meter, but when I was actually shooting, I shot part of a wedding using this lens to test it, and I decided to use the 70mm aspect on the lens to shoot the rings. Now 70mm doesn't really give you that great a close-up on the rings, and I also used it on the bouquet, the bride's bouquet for the flowers. But I shot it at 70, but having the full frame 43 megapixel crop capacity on this camera allowed me to crop it down and create almost a macro image, which was quite impressive. I won't bore you with the photographs. You guys have all seen micro photographs of rings a gazillion times, but I was able to reproduce the equivalent of a macro type photograph by shooting 70mm f4 and cropping, which means I didn't need to change lenses. I didn't need to go looking for a macro lens or a macro filter. I just shot it with the same lens that I was using to shoot the bride preparation makeup. So that was really good for me. Less equipment to carry is a winner. This lens on this body is very well balanced, especially with this grip here. It balances very well. It doesn't seem excessively heavy. I had done some tests for Fuji on the X-T1, and they have a 16-55mm lens, which on their crop sensor is like a 24-80 equivalent sort of thing. Probably their nearest equivalent to this, but the misbalancing of it was pretty extreme, with the Fuji body being so light and the lens being almost the same as this. It was very misbalanced. This is beautifully balanced. I could carry this all day and probably not even think about putting the strap around my neck. Very easy to use, not straining my wrist, not at all. The manual focus in this is just beautiful as well. I used it extensively, manual focus in low light, using like a focus peaking, and beautiful, very, very good. So very impressed. As I say, I'm not a big fan, if you like, of 24-70s, 200, 70-200s, that sort of style of focal range lenses because I use them because I have to for work more than anything. But this lens, I would seeing the results from this lens, I would be very happy to strap this onto the camera and use it even for personal work, just because while it's not giving the same quality as a prime, it's giving very close. I took some shots on this at an estimation of 55mm to compare it to the other Zeiss 55mm, the prime. And okay, this is f4, this is f1.8. I was using them in the same aperture points, very, very similar. So overall, I'd give this lens a 9.5 out of 10.